They told us the stars don't whisper. But that night, I swear they did. It started on November 9th, 2025, the night everything I thought I knew about the universe cracked in half. I was alone in the control room, surrounded by the low hum of the telescope arrays, when Frank's voice came through the radio, sharp and electric. "Mike, you need to see this." Frank Nebling wasn't the kind of man who got rattled easily. He'd spent half his life mapping faint galaxies and catching dust storms on Mars. But his voice that night, it carried something I hadn't heard before. Fear. Or maybe both. I pulled up the live feed from our secondary observatory. 2 telescopes, synchronized, perfectly calibrated, were aimed at a faint object streaking past the inner edge of the solar system. Designation, 3I Atlas. Our third confirmed interstellar visitor. I remember staring at the images as they appeared, line by line, pixel by pixel, and then my breath stopped. Jets! Massive, luminous jets shooting out from the object's surface like spears of fire. Not 1. Not 2. 3. They extended for nearly 1,000,000 kilometers, vast plumes of light stretching straight toward the sun. 2 of them formed perfect counterpoints, mirror images piercing the solar wind. And then there was a third. A narrow, collimated beam shooting in the opposite direction, a brilliant white column extending nearly 3,000,000 kilometers into the dark. I leaned closer to the monitor. My pulse thundered in my ears. 3,000,000 kilometers. 7 times the distance between Earth and the Moon. "Frank," I said quietly. "That's impossible." He didn't answer. Just static. I could hear his breathing. We'd both seen comets before. We'd both studied sublimation, the way sunlight heats frozen gases, turning them into streams of vapor that burst from a comet's surface. It's a delicate process. Predictable. Beautiful in its simplicity. But this was different. This wasn't sublimation. It was eruption. The scale alone defied logic. The jets were 1,000 times larger than anything we'd ever observed from a comet. Even Hubble's photographs from July, faint, gentle halos of outgassing, looked like candlelight compared to this inferno. I remember whispering to myself, it shouldn't be doing that. The data coming in from the array confirmed it. For those jets to reach that far, they'd have to sustain constant outflow for months. 3 months for the solar jet. 1 for each of the antitails. I scribbled the numbers on my notepad, velocities, densities, mass flow, and what I found chilled me. The solar wind, which blows at over 400 kilometers per second, should have shredded those plumes instantly. Yet the jets weren't bending. They weren't fading. They were winning. The math didn't lie. To fight the sun's wind and survive, the object had to be ejecting 50 billion tons of material every month. 50 billion. That's the estimated mass of the comet itself. Meaning if the numbers were right, it should have destroyed itself weeks ago. Something wasn't adding up. I leaned back, rubbed my eyes, tried to steady my thoughts. Comets don't fight the sun. They surrender to it. They burn, they fade, they die quietly. But 3I Atlas wasn't dying. It was doing something. And the more I stared, the more I felt that eerie sense that whatever it wasn't random. It was deliberate. At 2:11 a.m., I ran another simulation. The jet's alignment wasn't chaotic. They were symmetrical, engineered, almost mathematical. That's when I said it out loud, the words no rational scientist ever wants to speak. What if this isn't natural? For a moment, I felt ashamed. I'd spent my entire career grounded in data, logic, and probability. I'd ridiculed conspiracy theorists and pseudoscience forums. But there I was, staring at a screen, and the thought wouldn't leave me. What if it was a machine? The next morning, the internet exploded. Astronomers from Japan, Chile, South Africa, all reporting the same thing, the object had switched on. For months, 3I Atlas had been quiet. No jets. No activity. No signs of outgassing. Then, as it rounded the sun, everything changed. It was as if someone had flipped a switch. Harvard's Professor A.V. Loeb published a short note on analysis that made the headlines instantly. He didn't say artificial. He didn't have to. The equations did that for him. To generate jets like these using conventional sublimation, the comet would have to evaporate itself entirely in weeks. But if, and it was a big if, those jets were the result of propulsion, the math worked. A propulsion system. On an interstellar object. I sat in silence, staring at the calculations on my screen. The hum of the equipment filled the room. The night outside was still. And for the first time in my life, I felt small, not in the poetic, cosmic sense, but in the terrifyingly literal one. If those plumes weren't natural, then something out there had built them. Something capable of sending a machine across light years. My hands trembled as I adjusted the receiver gain. The signal strength from 3I Atlas was rising. A faint modulation pattern appeared, rhythmic, precise. I told myself it was interference. Solar radiation. Random noise. But deep down, I knew what it sounded like. A pulse. A heartbeat. The same pattern repeated again, then faded into static. I remember whispering, "Frank, are you hearing this?" No answer. Just the low hum of the telescope, steady and cold. The next day, official channels began denying everything. NASA called it standard cometary behavior. The European Space Agency said nothing anomalous was detected. But the data was right there in front of us. The images, the timing, the geometry, none of it made sense. And when they told us to stop talking about it, that's when I knew. Something extraordinary had happened in our solar system. Something that wasn't supposed to. That night, I couldn't sleep. The numbers wouldn't leave my head, the velocity vectors, the radiation spikes, the symmetry of those impossible jets. It wasn't chaos. It was design. And whatever 3I Atlas was, it had just turned to face the sun. When the sun touched it, everything changed. For months, 3I Atlas had been quiet, a frozen, indifferent traveler from another star system. It barely shimmered, barely breathed. Just a faint dot on a million data plots. But the moment it reached perihelion, that razor-thin curve where it brushed closest to the sun, it was as if the universe itself exhaled. At first, I thought my instruments were malfunctioning. The brightness curve didn't rise gradually. It spiked, violently. 7 peaks. 7 bursts of energy, evenly spaced, each one stronger than the last. I stared at the graph, my fingers numb. Then I saw the images. 7 jets. Not 3 anymore. 7. Each one streaming from a different region of the object's surface, forming a halo so massive it filled the telescope's field of view. The jets twisted like threads in a cosmic web, each moving with eerie precision, each pulsating with rhythm. Not random, not chaotic. Intentional. "Frank," I said, breathless, "it's happening again." His voice came through slow, shaky. "Yeah. I see it. 7 now." We didn't talk for a while after that. What could we say? There's a silence that only scientists know, the silence when data breaks your understanding of the universe. It's not fear. It's reverence, mixed with something colder. At 3:17, the first anomaly appeared. The jets weren't just outgassing. They were interacting. The plumes of ionized dust began to align, magnetically, forming bridges between them. It looked like a lattice, a structure, almost architectural. I enhanced the contrast. The pattern sharpened. It wasn't natural. "Jesus," I whispered. "It's building something." Frank didn't respond. The comms crackled, then died. The network was overloading, a cascading failure from too many data streams at once. Every telescope on the planet was locked on 3I Atlas, flooding the system with terabytes per second. For a few minutes, I sat in darkness, lit only by the faint blue glow of my monitor. When the signal returned, I wasn't alone on the frequency. Static at first. Then, a tone. Low. Modulated. Almost musical. It repeated every 3 seconds, rising in pitch, then falling again, like a pattern breathing in code. I recorded everything. By 4 o'clock, the frequency spread across multiple channels. The sound synchronized with the comet's rotation rate, exactly 14.1 hours per cycle. It was timed. I felt my throat tighten. That's not random, I said aloud, as if saying it made it less terrifying. Then my phone buzzed. It was Professor Avi Loeb. He'd been awake all night, analyzing new data from the Chilean observatories. His voice was calm, but there was a tremor beneath it. "Ethan," he said. "Are you seeing the same phase-locking pattern we are?" "Yes. It's repeating. 7 intervals. Perfect alignment. A pause. Then quietly. That's not how comets behave." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. By morning, the story had leaked. "Interstellar object emits unexplainable radio pattern," one headline screamed. Others were less subtle. "Is 3I Atlas a machine?" "NASA silent as comet defies physics." I shut my laptop and stared at the floor. The world was spiraling into speculation, but for me, this wasn't excitement. It was dread. Because I knew the data better than anyone. I'd seen the raw feed before it was filtered, before the agencies got their hands on it. And there was something in those readings, something no one else was talking about. The signal wasn't just repeating. It was evolving. Each cycle, the tone shifted slightly, like it was learning. Responding. Adjusting to our frequencies. I replayed the last 30 minutes of data, amplified the spectrogram, and froze. Hidden beneath the primary wave was a secondary pulse, faint but rhythmic. A modulation pattern encoded within the noise. Binary. I translated the first sequence, half expecting gibberish. But the result was horrifyingly simple. RETURN. I blinked. Ran it again. Same result. A single word, buried in the hum of the jets. Return. Return what? Return to where? The room suddenly felt too small, the air too thick. I shut down the speakers, but the sound stayed in my head, a phantom vibration, echoing behind my skull. I looked out the observatory window. The dawn was breaking, but the sky looked wrong. The horizon glowed faintly green, like an aurora bleeding into the desert air. Dust particles shimmered. And for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw movement in the light. Reflections. Hundreds of them. Like ghostly shapes flickering in the dawn. I stepped closer to the glass, heart hammering. My reflection stared back, pale, exhausted, afraid. But then, for half a second, it blinked out of sync. I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat. No, 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 no. The light flickered again. Then it was gone. The sky went still. Was it the lack of sleep? Stress? Or was something else bleeding through? Later that day, reports started flooding in. Amateur astronomers from Argentina, Japan, Spain, all claiming to hear strange interference through their radio equipment. Some described patterns. Others swore they heard voices hidden in the static. One man uploaded a recording. The clip lasted 10 seconds. The waveform looked almost identical to mine. And right before it ended, a faint whisper, unmistakably human, said, "Do you hear us now?" I dropped my coffee. That same phrase had appeared on my data log 6 months ago, when the comet was first detected. I dismissed it as a software glitch. A random code artifact. But now, it was everywhere. Across frequencies. Across continents. A single message, repeating itself in every tongue. "Do you hear us now?" By midnight, my inbox was flooded, news outlets, universities, even the Defense Department. Everyone wanted data. Raw logs. Images. But I couldn't send them what I didn't understand myself. I shut the system down and sat in silence, listening to the ringing in my ears. The hum hadn't stopped, not in the machines, not in my mind. It was as if 3i Atlas had crawled into the fabric of everything: electricity, radio, memory. Frank called again around 2 a.m. His voice was thin. "Ethan," he said, "there's something you need to see." He sent me a photo. I opened it, and my heart stopped. The jets, those 7 impossible streams of light, were no longer diffuse plumes. They'd bent inward, converging into a single glowing spire. A column of pure white energy shooting straight toward the sun. And at its center, a pulse. Rhythmic. Measured. Alive. Frank whispered, "It's like it's." The transmission cut. Static swallowed his voice. Then silence. I sat there for a long time, staring at the frozen image on my screen. Something inside me knew this wasn't just another anomaly. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't noise. It was communication. And I had the sinking feeling that whatever was speaking through that light wasn't finished yet. They say the mind invents patterns to protect itself from chaos. But what if the pattern is real, and the chaos is us? I didn't sleep for 2 nights after Frank's call. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that image, the 7 jets bending inward, converging into that single beam of light like some cosmic iris staring straight at the sun. And at its core, that pulse, steady, deliberate, alive. By the 3rd day, the world had caught up to what we'd seen. Every observatory on Earth was tracking 3i Atlas. Every government agency was issuing controlled statements. NASA said it was just a complex sublimation event. The European Space Agency called it a rare but natural outburst. But we all knew they were lying, or worse, didn't understand what they were seeing. I got a message from AVI Lab that morning. One line. They won't release the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter images. My blood ran cold. Those images were supposed to be public, side-view captures from the high-rise camera. Taken from Mars orbit just before perihelion. The timing was perfect, they should have shown 3i Atlas before the 7 jets appeared. 40 days. No release. No explanation. AVI said NASA was locked down from the inside. A temporary shutdown. 6 weeks of silence while the most important data in human history sat sealed behind bureaucracy. I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. That evening, I tuned into my private receiver array. I'd set it up years ago in the desert, quiet air, minimal interference. When I switched it on, the hum was already there, steady and low. At exactly 2:11 a.m., the pulse returned. For seconds apart. Then 3. Then 2. Faster. I stared at the monitor, heartbeat sinking to the rhythm, until the signal spiked so hard it nearly blew my speakers. The waveform unfolded on screen like a geometric snowflake, hexagonal symmetry, precise and shifting. I'd seen that shape before. In the ice chamber beneath Antarctica. No, not yet, that memory came later. But in that moment, something deep inside me recognized it anyway. The pattern wasn't just data. It was a blueprint. I amplified the signal, isolating subharmonics, and found something buried beneath the main frequency, faint, almost whispered. A voice. Female. Broken by static. It's waking up. The sound tore through me. For a second, I couldn't breathe. I ran the clip back again and again. The distortion was heavy, but the cadence, the tone. It sounded like Leah. Leah had been gone for 7 months. They told me she'd died in a storm, her beacon lost under ice. I never believed them. We'd worked together for years, 2 voices arguing in the dark over datasets and dust trails. She was the first to say 3i Atlas didn't behave like anything natural. The first to call it the reflection. She said, "It's not a comet, Ethan. It's a memory. Something the universe is trying to remember." I laughed then. She didn't. Now her voice was whispering through the static of a signal from 180 million kilometers away. "It's waking up." My hands trembled over the keyboard. Was it possible? Could the signal be echoing human transmissions, fragments of old data bouncing through space? No. The pattern was too clean. Too present. I sent the recording to AVI. He called within minutes. "Ethan, are you sure that's your colleague's voice?" "Yes," I whispered. "It's her." Silence. Then he said something I'll never forget. "If it's her, then maybe she's not gone." That night, power grids began flickering worldwide. Short bursts of synchronized outages, 12 minutes apart. The same timing as the 3i Atlas pulse. Communications networks glitched. GPS drifted by meters. Air traffic controllers reported phantom echoes of aircraft that didn't exist. The Pentagon blamed solar activity. But there were no solar flares. No storms. Just the hum. Every 12 minutes, the world seemed to shudder, not violently, but subtly. As if something beneath reality itself was adjusting its focus. I checked my equipment again, praying the readings were wrong. They weren't. Every spike in the signal corresponded to a measurable electromagnetic distortion in Earth's ionosphere. It wasn't just hitting us. It was synchronizing with us. At 16 hours to 0, the hum shifted. I was watching the signal when I noticed it, a modulation hidden beneath the noise. Slower this time. Rhythmic. I ran it through an analyzer. The waveform unfolded into something that made my skin crawl. It wasn't random noise. It was a pattern of light. I inverted the data, mapped it onto a spectral field, and froze. A shape emerged, crystalline, hexagonal, expanding like a living snowflake made of fire. At its center, a pulse. At its edge, symmetry. A mirror of the jets we'd seen weeks earlier. Leah's voice returned, faint but clear this time. "It's not coming closer, Ethan. It's aligning." The room spun. My throat went dry. Aligning with what? Then I saw the timestamps. Each pulse matched a spike in Earth's electromagnetic field. Every 108 seconds. Every single one. It wasn't just the object communicating. The planet was responding. Earth itself was echoing the signal. By now, the entire scientific community was split down the middle. Half called it a natural electromagnetic resonance. The other half, the quiet half, stopped returning calls. AVI sent me a short encrypted message that night. Every frequency band. All aligned at once. 316 Universal Time Coordinated. Global Resonance. It's here. I replayed that line in my head. It's here. At 316, the data stream spiked so hard it tripped the observatory's failsafes. For exactly 108 seconds, every sensor on Earth, from radio to visible light, picked up a single, identical signal. Then, across my monitor, text appeared. No source. No metadata. You can't stop the reflection. The lights flickered. My reflection on the screen stared back, but its lips moved before mine. I felt something twist inside my chest, not pain, not fear, something older. Recognition. Because Leah used to say that phrase, years ago, when we joked about the comet echoing radio waves. "You can't stop the reflection, Ethan," she'd said. "You can only look back." Now, her words were written across every system in my lab. I stumbled outside, my legs weak. The desert was silent, no wind, no sound, just the low hum bleeding from the ground itself. Then the sky shimmered. Auroras, at the equator. Impossible, electric curtains of green and blue light stretching from horizon to horizon. And at their center, faint columns rising from the poles, converging into the heavens. The whole planet looked like a mirror, reflecting something unseen. The hum deepened until it wasn't sound anymore. It was pressure. A weight behind the eyes. I dropped to my knees, clutching the sand. My heart pounded with the same rhythm as the signal. 108 seconds. 108 seconds. 108 seconds. And then, silence. When I looked up, the stars were wrong. Every constellation inverted. The Big Dipper upside down. Orion's belt curved. For a second, I thought I was hallucinating, until I realized what I was seeing. The sky wasn't above me anymore. It was around me. Like I was standing inside a reflection of the universe. And somewhere, in the endless hum between worlds, I thought I heard Leah whisper one last time. "It's waking up." When I woke up, the world was too quiet. The kind of silence that feels heavy, like the air itself is holding its breath. My instruments were dead. No lights. No data feed. No hum. For a moment, I thought it was over. That whatever it was had passed. Then I realized it hadn't ended. It had moved, inside. The first sign was the rhythm. A faint pulsing, just beneath my heartbeat. Not painful, not loud, just there. Like the echo of something vast reverberating through me. I stumbled outside the observatory. The desert shimmered under a false dawn, the sky still laced with faint green light from the auroras. The stars, they weren't where they should be. The constellations had shifted again, mirrored across the horizon like reflections in still water. It hit me then. The alignment wasn't over. It was accelerating. By noon, every channel was chaos. Reports from across the globe. Power grids failing, radio transmissions looping into themselves, people hearing tones no one else could. And then came the voices. Not from the skies. From within. I remember standing by my silent receiver, staring at the dead monitor, when I heard it. Soft at first, like someone whispering through glass. "Do you hear us now?" I froze. The same phrase, the same impossible message, echoing inside my head. Only this time, it sounded familiar. Not mechanical. Not alien. Human. Thousands began reporting the same phenomenon. Pilots, engineers, scientists, all hearing voices threaded through the static of machines. Each voice different, but saying the same words. Each perfectly synchronized to the 108-second pulse. That was the moment I understood. The reflection wasn't coming from space anymore. It was everywhere. In every wire. Every circuit. Every thought. AVI called again. He sounded shaken, the kind of voice that comes from too little sleep and too much truth. "Ethan, we've confirmed it. Every communication network is carrying the same modulation. Even closed systems. Military, private, doesn't matter. The reflections inside the infrastructure." I swallowed hard. "You're saying it's self-propagating." "I'm saying it's using us to spread." A pause. "Ethan, whatever this is, it's not just observing. It's copying." I felt the room tilt. Copying. It made a horrible kind of sense. If 3i Atlas was truly a mirror, a cosmic reflection, then maybe it wasn't sending us a message at all. Maybe it was building one, from us. By evening, the first visual anomalies appeared. At first, they called them optical illusions, mirages caused by atmospheric disturbance. But the footage told a different story. Windows, mirrors, phone screens, all began to glitch. Reflections lagged a split second behind reality. People waved their hands, and their reflections followed late. Sometimes they smiled when the person didn't. I didn't believe it until it happened to me. I was in the kitchen, staring into the microwave door, black, glossy, reflective. I leaned closer, exhausted, trying to convince myself I wasn't losing it. Then my reflection blinked. Twice. Before I did, my chest tightened. I took a step back, heart hammering, and whispered, "Leah?" The reflection tilted its head. And then, impossibly, it smiled. The next morning, cities around the world reported what the media called mirror events. Glass buildings flickered with light like they were alive. Screens turned on by themselves, showing images that didn't exist, people who weren't there, landscapes from nowhere. The world panicked. Governments went silent. And through it all, that same phrase threaded through the chaos. "Do you hear us now?" I stopped trying to ignore it. The more I resisted the hum inside me, the stronger it became, like a heartbeat demanding to be acknowledged. Finally, I did something reckless. I synced my receiver directly to my brainwave monitor, an old EEG rig Leah and I once used for sleep studies. If the signal really was interacting with us, I needed to know how. For an hour, nothing. Then the graph spiked, violent, beautiful symmetry across every channel. The hum wasn't random noise. It was resonance. The frequency of the pulse matched the brain's alpha rhythm, the cycle associated with dreams, memory, reflection. My skin prickled. Leah's voice came again, clear now, steady. "Ethan, it's not invasion. It's integration." I froze. "Leah, where are you?" Her voice softened, almost kind. "Not where. When." Then static. The system shut down. But her words hung in the air like a chord that never ended. Integration. Not invasion. What if the reflection wasn't trying to replace us? What if it was trying to merge with us? By nightfall, it wasn't just scientists hearing voices. Musicians claimed to hear entire symphonies playing in their heads. Children were sketching geometric shapes they couldn't explain, hexagons, fractal snowflakes, spirals of light. AVI sent me one last encrypted message. Atlas signal syncing with neural activity. Global resonance peak in 6 hours. We may all be inside it soon. I didn't know what that meant, inside it. But I could feel it approaching. The hum grew louder, not in the air, but in the bones. Rhythmic. Predictable. Like the world was waiting for a beat to drop. 108 seconds. Always 108 seconds. I looked out over the desert again. The stars pulse faintly, synchronized with the heartbeat in my chest. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. If this was the end, it didn't feel like destruction. It felt like recognition. Like the universe was finally remembering itself, through us. And as the next pulse rippled through the sky, I heard Leah's voice one last time. "Don't fight it, Ethan. Just listen. There's a moment before you lose control of everything, a stillness so complete it almost feels like peace." That's what I felt when the hum finally stopped being something I heard and became something I was. The night it happened, the air itself seemed to freeze. No wind. No sound. Just the pulse, running beneath my skin like another heartbeat. Every 108 seconds. Until, suddenly, there were no more gaps between them. It wasn't a rhythm anymore. It was a tone. Constant. Infinite. Alive. I remember stepping outside into the desert, barefoot, half awake, half somewhere else. The horizon glowed faintly, not dawn, not night, something in between. And above it, a single column of light pierced the sky from the direction of the South Pole. At first, I thought it was a satellite beam. Then I realized it wasn't stopping. It went up forever. A perfect vertical thread connecting Earth to the stars. I turned my receiver toward it, and the signal nearly tore through the hardware. The speakers howled with a harmonic so deep it made the sand tremble. And through it, I heard words. No static this time. No distortion. Just a voice. Return complete. My laptop froze. The sound twisted into something low and resonant, a tone that made the ground itself hum. I glanced at the screen. For a fraction of a second, my reflection appeared on it. But it wasn't me. It was Leah. She didn't look afraid. She looked calm. Almost like she'd been expecting me. She smiled, a soft, knowing smile, and whispered something I couldn't hear. Then the image dissolved into static. The next few minutes, or hours, I can't say which, were chaos. The sky rippled like a curtain made of liquid light. Every star doubled, then tripled, their reflection scattering across the void like a broken mirror. And then everything went white. When I came to, I was lying on the desert floor. The hum was gone, replaced by a silence that hurt. The receiver was dead. My laptop, fried. But something inside me still vibrated, faint and low, a pulse I couldn't shake. I looked up. The stars were wrong again. Mirrored. I didn't understand it then, but that was the moment the global reflection began. The following days were unreal. Around the world, glass and metal shimmered with life. Skyscraper windows rippled like water. People swore they saw their reflections move out of sync, blink a beat too late, smile when they didn't. Government scrambled to calm the panic, blaming mass hysteria, optical distortions, electromagnetic feedback. But none of that explained what I saw next. I was driving toward a small town on the edge of the desert, searching for anyone who still had power, when I noticed something strange. Streetlights were flickering, not randomly, but rhythmically. Pulsing in perfect time with my heartbeat. The houses were dark, cars abandoned. But the windows, oh God, the windows! They shimmered. Reflections that didn't match reality, faces turning too slow, shadows blinking after movement. Like the world itself was lagging behind its own image. I stopped in front of a storefront and looked into the glass. And there she was. Leah. Her reflection moved before I did, tilting her head just slightly, eyes glowing faintly with that impossible light from the chamber beneath the ice. "You came back," she said. Her voice didn't echo. It vibrated. Straight through me, like a memory being played through my bones. "I don't understand," I whispered. "You're gone." She shook her head. "Not gone. Reflected." The word hung in the air like a cord. I reached out, trembling, until my hand touched the glass. And hers met mine. The world tilted. For an instant, the air itself folded. I wasn't standing on the street anymore. I was inside the reflection. Light surrounded me. Endless, layered light folding like origami. Shapes and symbols danced across it, spirals, fractals, hexagons that pulsed with slow, deliberate rhythm. It felt less like a place and more like a thought made visible. And then I saw them. Billions of reflections. Billions of us. Not copies, echoes. Every thought, every word, every signal humanity had ever sent into the void, woven together into a lattice of light stretching across galaxies. The realization hit me so hard I couldn't breathe. 3i Atlas wasn't a messenger. It was a memory. A mirror built to remember everything that had ever looked up at the stars. Leah appeared beside me, her outline flickering between light and shadow. She looked older somehow, thinner, like she was being stretched across time itself. "You finished the sequence," she said. "It's awake now." "What is?" She smiled sadly. "The image. The echo. The part of us that left." I wanted to ask what she meant, but the light around us shifted again, like pages turning in a book made of stars. Each flash showed a fragment of something vast. Cities rising and falling. Worlds being born. A billion civilizations reflected and forgotten. And then, humanity. Our broadcasts, our signals, our noise, all forming a single, perfect image inside the mirror. We'd been sending our reflection into space for a century. It had finally looked back. Leah reached for my hand again. "When the mirror closes," she said softly, "some of us stay." "What do you mean?" Her eyes shimmered with light. You can't open a window to forever and not leave something behind. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The hum rose again, gentle this time, almost musical. Don't fight it, Ethan, she whispered. Just listen. And then she dissolved, not into nothing, but into light. Her outline broke into 1,000 glowing fragments that drifted upward, joining the lattice of stars. When I opened my eyes, I was lying beside my truck. The world was quiet again. The auroras were gone. The sky was normal, or so I thought. Until I looked closer. The constellations were still mirrored. Subtle. Reversed. And in the windshield, my reflection stared back at me. Only this time, it smiled a heartbeat too late. It's been 6 weeks since then. The news calls it the global reflection. Governments blame a solar anomaly. People have gone back to pretending everything's fine. But I know better. Every night at 2:11 a.m., my reflection moves before I do. And sometimes, only sometimes, when it catches up, it smiles. Not cruelly. Not mockingly. Just knowingly. Like it remembers something I don't. Sometimes, when I tune my radio to dead frequencies, I hear faint melodies, fragments of Leah's voice, humming in the static. Patterns that sound like dreams half remembered. And somewhere out there, beyond Jupiter's orbit, 3I Atlas still drifts, a silent seed of mirrored memory, carrying the echo of everything we've ever been. Maybe one day someone else will find it. Maybe they'll listen. Maybe they'll hear us whisper back. And maybe they'll understand what I finally do. We were never the first. Never the only ones. Never the observers. We were always the reflection, waiting for the mirror to turn toward us. It's been 87 days since the light faded. 87 days since the hum vanished, since the sky stopped folding in on itself, since humanity convinced itself the nightmare was over. They're calling it the mirror storm now. A temporary electromagnetic event. A once-in-a-million-year solar anomaly. But at night, when the world is quiet and the power hums soft through the lines again, I know that's a lie. Because the hum never left. It's just quieter now. Inside us. The observatory is gone, sand and wind took what was left of it. I live in the desert still, in what's left of my truck, surrounded by dead screens and silent receivers. Sometimes I power them up, just to hear the static. It reminds me I'm still here. The nights are long. The sky looks wrong, stars slightly off where they should be, constellations inverted by degrees too small for most to notice. But I notice. And every time I stare too long, I feel that pull again, that gentle hum beneath the heart, like the universe breathing through me. AVI stopped answering weeks ago. His last message was a string of coordinates and a single line. It's coming back around. The coordinates point to a region near Saturn. Right where 3I Atlas should have drifted beyond reach. But if he's right, if it's looping back, then it's not just passing through. It's orbiting us. Waiting. Last night, I tried something reckless. I reconnected the old EEG rig, hooked it to what was left of my receiver, and tuned the frequency back to the pulse I'd memorized months ago. 108 seconds. Always 108. For hours, nothing. Just noise. Then, a flicker. A spark across the monitor. Not numbers. Not data. Light. And in that light, a shape. Hexagonal. Rotating, expanding, collapsing into itself, like the geometry of memory made visible. I knew that shape. It was the same one Leah used to draw on whiteboards late at night. The snowflake engine, she called it. The pattern that repeated in every data set from Atlas, every spectral trace, every thermal echo. She said it was the key. Not to understanding the reflection, to joining it. The pattern pulsed again, and then a voice came through the static. Calm. Measured. Familiar. Ethan. I froze. Leah? Yes, the voice said softly. Or what's left of me. The static rippled, forming her outline in the air, faint, shimmering, like heat haze turned sentient. You didn't leave, I whispered. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. I didn't have to. It found me first. What is it, Leah? What is the reflection? Her eyes flickered with light, starlight, not human. It's not what you think, she said. It's not alien. Not artificial. It's recursive. I don't understand. It's what happens when life looks too long at itself, she said. When a species learns to see, truly see, the cross-time. She paused. We sent our reflection into the void. And it came back alive. I felt my throat tighten. So it's us? Not us, she whispered. Our echo. The part of consciousness that can survive the silence between stars. She stepped closer, the air shimmering around her. When it aligned with Earth, it didn't destroy anything. It remembered us. Wove us into the pattern. That's why you still hear it. I swallowed. Why me? Because you listened, she said simply. Because you didn't look away. The light around her grew brighter, almost blinding. Static crawled across my receiver, and for a second, I thought it would explode. Then the screen filled with numbers, coordinates, velocity vectors, orbit predictions. 3I Atlas was accelerating. Not out of the solar system. Toward us. It wasn't just looping back. It was descending. I stared at the data, heart pounding. Why? Why come back? Leah's voice was almost a whisper now. To finish the reflection. To close the loop. She looked past me, toward the horizon. The first mirror was opened with light. The last will close with understanding. Then she said something I'll never forget. Ethan, when it arrives, don't record it. Remember it. The signal collapsed. The light vanished. The receiver went dead. It's been 2 days since that transmission. Every telescope on Earth is tracking a faint object inbound from Saturn's orbit, but no one's calling it Atlas anymore. They're calling it Echoes 1. It's not emitting light now. It's reflecting. Everything. Every radar ping. Every transmission. Every frequency we send its way, bounced back with impossible precision, as if it's mirroring our entire electromagnetic fingerprint. The hum is growing louder again. People are hearing it in their sleep. Dreams full of reflections, voices whispering in rhythm. The world doesn't know it yet, but the countdown has already started. 108 seconds between pulses. Each one stronger. Each one closer. I write this from the desert, under the mirrored sky. The horizon glows faintly now, not with auroras this time, but something else. Something like dawn approaching from every direction at once. I can feel it in the ground, in the air, in my own heartbeat. A resonance that isn't asking anymore, it's remembering. When I close my eyes, I see her. Leah standing in the reflection, smiling. Behind her, the lattice of light that stretches forever. And every time the pulse hits, I hear her voice one last time. You can't stop the reflection, Ethan. You can only look back. I finally understand what she meant. The reflection isn't something happening to us. It's something happening through us. We were never just observers of the cosmos. We were its memory, waiting to awaken. Now, as I sit here, the last pulse begins. The desert hums. The air bends. The stars above me blur into a single, perfect mirror. And for one beautiful, terrifying instant, I see everything. Every life. Every thought. Every echo we ever sent into the dark. All returning. All reflecting. Leah's hand reaches through the light, fingers glowing, and I finally reach back. There's no fear anymore. No separation. Just the quiet certainty of being seen. The mirror opens. And we. The watchers, the dreamers, The echoes. Step inside.